It's the very, very, very first day of 2024. Lots of people were like, he's going to screw it up tonight. Every year when it comes to January, I struggle to get the year right. We got it right this time. So January 1st, 2024. I almost said it again that time. Happy New Year to everybody. Except for scumbags in the nuclear industry, of course. And it always takes me a minute to get up to bash and speed. So consider subscribing, liking, all that other stuff. Oh, I've done that today. I apologize. Bear with me. There we go. That looks a bit better. I was messing around as usual before I went live and blah, blah, blah. Let's get after it. So we got a big earthquake in Japan. They probably caused the earthquake to spoil my one day off, but let's pretend that it was actually real for a second. I know, Dana, it's real. But what's not real is the thumbnail pictures that we're seeing today. And now this is WION, W-I-O-N, WION, or whatever you want to call it. I can't remember, it's an acronym for Indian site, I do believe. It's a very popular site. And I noticed the picture. I said, well, that's not today, obviously. Why are they doing that? And that's, they got the little check mark for YouTube. They got 20,000 people watching it, and they're showing a fake picture. Now, normally, they would fact check anybody who showed that picture and say, no, that's 2011. You can't show that. But what we discovered today was all the media was showing these kinds of pictures with the headlines that a tsunami has hit. So it's very difficult to wrap your mind around it if you're not in the know. Hi, everybody. Okay, so now this picture is not from today. This is first. I got to start off. I got to take you back to 2018 before we start covering the headlines, because that's the only way I can really tell the story tonight. And we see this happen quite a bit when we talk about earthquakes and Japan, but no other country, just Japan. We have to go through this routine. So 2018, this is Hito Island, the most northerly island of Japan. And the original story first was this story here. It was September 7, 2018. 22,000 people involved in a rescue effort. And that's what we're seeing today, the same thing. And a magnitude of 6.6 quake. Magnitude 6.6. But if you go back in the time machine and look at, say, Wikipedia, you see the 6.6 again, and they're talking about magnitude, but the actual, it's on the Japanese seismic intensity scale of 7, the Shindo scale. And bear with me. So remember, this is 2018 if you're just joining the stream. And so they had 130 aftershocks. They've already had 90 or 100 aftershocks so far today. And so this is irrelevant with this kind of earthquake, right? And it registered a magnitude of 6.7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale of 7. So you divide 7 into 10, which is the Richter scale, and you have about 1.428, 1.43. So you're going to multiply 1.43 times 6.7 is 9.5 on the international scale. And so what was significant about that earthquake, and this we're gone back to 2018 right now, what was significant about that earthquake was it was on land and it wasn't too far from a nuclear power plant. So you can see the Japanese, the higher the number, the more intensity we're talking about. And let's get something straight, an earthquake is an earthquake, right? No matter which country has it, it's still an earthquake. And that's why we use the international scale, because it's internationally recognized. But Taiwan and Japan also have a Shindo scale, which is based on 7. So you had the nuclear power plant was over there. Let me get out of the way. So you see the scale of 50 miles behind where I was just sitting. So when you look at the X, you can see it's less than 70, 80 miles away to the nuclear power plant. Now, that's important because this is what it was looking like. But we've seen pictures we've never seen before of huge landslides. Now, this is a close-up. And remember, this is 2018. I'm just doing this to try to lay a groundwork for the rest of the night because it's complicated what I got to talk about. And I want to make sure everybody's on the right page. So officially, this was considered a 6.7 earthquake in the newspapers worldwide. All the newspaper came out, oh, it's a 6.7. Most people just yawned it off, never even paid attention to it, right? But if you look deeper, this is what you start looking at. And I've never seen mountains lose all their payloads on each side of the mountain before. Now, I looked around. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but I couldn't find an incident of this ever happening in recent times or past times. And so it's hard to comprehend all these mountains on a insignificant, like a 6.6 scale that they were talking about. But it was actually a 9.5 scale. But they didn't want to call it a 9.5 because then the nuclear industry is going to have a hard time starting up nuclear power plants, right? So when you look in on it, you can see the big tanks and everything else. You start realizing how big these landslides actually were and where they lost their payloads. This is 2018 for anybody just joining us. And you can see the damage in 2018 of a 6.6. So you got to watch, because the Japanese are really slick. And the international media is more than willing to accommodate them. And they do this routine, we've covered it many times over the years, where they'll use a magnitude scale, but it's actually meant to be the Shindu scale, which is the 1 to 7 scale. And so each one of the international scale is equal, or each one of them is equal to 1.428 of the international scale. Don't worry, we're almost through it, and then we'll get into the headlines. I got some real doozies for you tonight, holy my goodness. And so this is a real earthquake. But they hid it away. And so the population was calling it a 6.6 and blew it off and never bothered looking it up. But when you look down the rabbit hole, you're like, oh my goodness, I've never seen nothing like that before. And so you shouldn't have a nuclear power plant in a country that's releasing payloads from their mountains like that. So when you zoom in on the bottom of it, just little areas, you can see how significant these landslides actually were, right? You see the highway busted up. But these huge extrapolating shots showing the payload lost in all directions, I don't have nothing else to compare that to. And so when we talk about earthquakes, this should be front and center of any kind of earthquake story. They should be talking about the Hito earthquake in 2018 and how all the mountains lost their payloads in landslides. This is unprecedented. You don't have any pictures of your countries, North America, for instance, with these attributes. Okay, so that was all 2018. And I keep repeating that because you're going to see a lot of pictures from 2011 that don't belong in the story today, which is not normal. And it's very confusing and very concerning. So you can call into the show, by the way. These are live shows. When we're live, you can call in at, I'm Dana, by the way. You can call in to 709-589-4406 if you'd like to add to it, or if you'd like to challenge any of my assertions, or if you just like to yell or talk or whatever. Feel free to call in. For Canada and the United States only, I should also say. I have unlimited call and texting. Okay, so Japan earthquake live, 7.6 tremor. Let's call it like, you're mitigating it when you use those terminologies for the average person. And so there's no reason in an emergency to utilize terminology that most people are not going to be alarmed by, because that's an alarming, a 7.6 earthquake. The agent reported a quake off the coast with a preliminary magnitude, which is the international scale, of 7.6. Now, because it's the aftershocks that they're going to use the Japanese scale for to manipulate you. Okay, that's what they're up to. So the major jolt was also felt by tourists that flocked to Japan mountainous resorts, which is in a nuclear wasteland. Nagano is a nuclear wasteland. That's a nasty. And up in the mountains, because they can't clean them up, right? They're authentic nuclear wastelands. They call them no-go zones for a decade, but they're actually nuclear wastelands. The major jolt was also felt by tourists. So why would they talk, and they've done this on a number of stories where they talk about tourists instead of talking about people who lived there all their lives and were able to give you a better perspective. And so I've become very skeptical after the first half an hour or something of every picture I'm looking at. I'm very skeptical, and I'll show you why, and you'll agree with me, I'm sure. After a powerful earthquake rocked, now there's big damage, there's confirmations of major damage, but they mixed in old pictures with the current pictures. And I've never seen the mainstream media do that before, so I'm very confused by it. We'll show you that stuff. The amount of destruction, number of casualties remain unclear as emergency services try to reach the epicenter. So, like, they're already painting it as a Hito type earthquake, right? Or a Honshu earthquake. Now, it's on the opposite side of the island. We'll show you. We'll get through all that. And so when I see pictures like this, because of what I'm going to show you coming up, you got to wonder if they're being honest. And I think that particular picture is honest. Fire teams struggle to reach houses ablaze as people trapped inside. Shows a major fire blazing in Wajima City, which is a little peninsula that sticks off the west coast of Japan. Engulfed a row of houses, and it was about 60 kilometers off the coast and about 13 kilometers deep. It's a very shallow earthquake, which are usually the most violent, obviously, earthquakes, right? Now, because they were calling for a tsunami, it meant they were talking about the tectonic plates. So this was a tectonic plate earthquake. This wasn't just your, Japan has typical earthquakes because you have thousands each year, right? And you should never have nuclear in a country with those particular attributes. And that's why we got a poll tonight. We'll bring that up very quick before I forget about it. Was Japan's massive earthquake today more proof that was Japan's massive earthquake today more proof Japan's nuclear power plants is a threat to the country? And I'm pretty sure everybody agrees with me that Japan is earthquakes like we're seeing in Japan in particular are a threat to the country, right? Okay, so we're starting to get into the meat of it. So you can see in relationship, Fukushima's up here, and Wajima Ishikawa is up on the west coast, and the tsunami was apparently offshore. The swamp caused numerous reports of people injured and trapped inside of collapsed buildings. Do you have major fires going on? TEPCO immediately came out and said there was no damage at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. And that's quite, that's a headline. That's the headline. So they're not worried about the people that are in harm's way. They're worried about protecting their reputation, right? Excuse me. And I had no intentions that I really needed a day off because I haven't been very well for the last couple of days. And I'll show you why making the assertions that TEPCO said there was no damage reported. Well, the homeless don't really have a voice there, right? It's only the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language, that are at Fukushima. There's no nuclear scientists there. So these buildings got covers over them, but there's no way to quantify because they're lethal doses to be close to it. That's just 2 of the 4 reactors that melted down. Now, the buildings were swaying for up to 2 minutes in Tokyo, which is quite a long ways away. And so these buildings are very fragile, and you're worried that the fuel that's left inside of it can go into a recriticality and have another nuclear meltdown. They've had many of them post-Fukushima nuclear meltdown. And so these are very unstable buildings, and you can't... In fact, what you see left should have been razed all the way to the ground. They left those stumps there so they can manipulate the population of the planet. Japan's are perpetual liars. So the official story is right here, but that's also the official story, pictures. So it can't look like this and look like that. And you can't rebuild a nuclear meltdown, because it's a nuclear meltdown. There's lethal doses. And so Japan is one of the most professional lawyers you'll ever come across. Just bear with me. My apologies. I meant to turn the audio down. I'll try to remember next time. So when TEPCO comes out and says it has a seismic intensity of 3 on a Japanese scale, that's basically a 4.28, because you're going to multiply it by 1.1. You're going to multiply it by 1.428 to get the international scale. So a earthquake of a little over 4 and a quarter, is more than enough, because it was a shallow earthquake. It has very lateral movements. That's enough to cause radioactive plumes to start again from there. And so I'd be concerned that in the next 72 hours or so, we're going to see Geiger counter readings going quite high in North America, because the buildings are actually destroyed. And that's something also that we have to be concerned about, because these are prolific lawyers, the nuclear industry. And Japan is at the top of that scale. So Japan issues a tsunami alert after 7.5 magnitude earthquake. And the only reason you're gonna issue a tsunami alert is because it's the tectonic plates, right? So when the plate slips, that's what's going to cause the tsunami. A typical earthquake won't cause a tsunami. Maybe a couple inches or something like that. And the thing with a tsunami is it might travel at around 400 miles per hour. So even though it's only this high, as it comes into shallow water at such a high speed, it can theoretically rise up and be a problem for anybody on the coastline, right? But there is incidences of that in the past. So Nagano and Niigata are both known nuclear wastelands. And the food from there is certified waste, nuclear waste. We might have to stay on this screen for most of the show tonight. Japan's issued a major tsunami warning after the country was hit by a 7.5 magnitude earthquake on Monday. There's been almost 90 or close to 100 aftershocks. And the tremor struck 52 kilometers away, not 60, Dana. Get your facts straight, Dana. Away from the city at a depth of 13 kilometers around 4 p.m. in Japan. Japan's 12 hours ahead of us. And the warning was given from Ashikawa Prefecture, Hito, and the entire west coast. Hito, which is what I started off the show with, was Hito, which is far, far away. So if they're giving warnings all the way up to there, then they're talking about the tectonic plates, which means you're going to have a lot of aftershocks, and that's what we expected. Now that's 18 hours later or so, that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the numbers being acknowledged. So 52 kilometers away and 13 kilometers deep. So that's a super shallow earthquake. Immediate evacuation order. Now I heard just before we went live that the numbers are around 100,000 people are currently evacuated from 9 prefectures. And so they still feel strongly that there could be another significant earthquake. We've been waiting since March for another major earthquake on the East Coast over by Fukushima Prefecture, because traditionally each year around the anniversary of Fukushima, the Hanshu, they typically have a significant earthquake that damages thousands of buildings, and it's usually within 30, 40 kilometers of the meltdowns, the current ongoing perpetual nuclear meltdowns in Japan. And according to the report, the tremor was also felt in Tokyo, and you'll see coming up we have reports from people saying that it shook far, far away, farther than Tokyo for several minutes. And then again, the media runs out with headlines about the nuclear power plants, which is quite telling of this culture, right? No abnormalities at the Japanese nuclear plants with it following tremor. These are huge sites. These are like little cities. You can't quantify an assertion like that for several days. So to come out and suggest that there's no abnormalities is completely dishonest and disingenuous. 36,000 households locally were left without electricity after the earthquake, not the tremor, but the earthquake. And I know there's one and the same, but most people don't understand the significance. A lot of people think a tremor is just, background or earthquake kind of thingy, right? But we're talking about a real earthquake, as you'll see. U.S. offers Japan support to deal with the potential quake damage. So the Americans got spy satellites over everybody, and they seen the damage. They know the earthquake was at the tectonic plates, and so they know there's significant damage there. Which all it is interesting for what I'm going to show you coming up. And when I get there, let's methodically get through the rest of this first. So it hit around 4 p.m. local time, and when I started following the story, and thank you to everybody that left messages on the videos and sent me texts and everything else, because I wasn't really paying attention. I was trying to take the day off because I'm not feeling good, and I want to be able to do shows for the rest of the week, right? And I'd done a short show yesterday so that people wouldn't be hanging out at night time. They can go out and celebrate with their loved ones or something. So it was 4 p.m. their time, and then my time was 10:41 a.m., which was 11:11 p.m. their time. So I wasn't too far behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Russia and South Korea also sent out tsunami alerts because obviously it's the tectonic plates that have slipped. And then they show you these bizarre maps, right? But on the way the crow flies, Fukushima is actually closer than Tokyo. And Tokyo was shaking significantly. So they talked about tsunamis as high as 16.5 feet, which is what they estimated for Fukushima, but because they travel in at over 435 miles per hour, they rose up to 140 feet in some places. And 16.5 feet is higher than the 3-meter threshold, the 9-foot threshold for a major tsunami warning. You imagine walking into a river that's 9 feet tall. It'll sweep you away, right? NHK reported that, and especially if it's going 400 miles per hour, NHK reported that smaller tsunami waves had already been confirmed to reach the coastline. And again, a small one gets channeled in and into a shallow area, coming in at high speeds, can be very significant. Can drown people that are on the coastline not paying attention. Later on, money authorities downgraded the major tsunami warning to a tsunami warning. They downgraded the major to just a tsunami warning, rather, and urged people to still evacuate. And now, currently, just before we went live, was roughly 90 to 100,000, I believe. A 45 centimeter, 1.5 foot tsunami on South Korea's east coast can grow and continue for more than a day. Whatever that is. Can grow and continue for more than a day. Well, it has to travel 1,000 miles, basically, is what they're talking about, right? So it can grow in that 1,000 miles. Cracks seen on the ground. And so there's that's real damage. That's hardcore. Right there, that's serious. That's a significant drop in the ground, right? Which is emblematic of a tectonic plate slip. And so that was built up ground because they had parking lots and they had built these beautiful buildings and everything. And so now you're talking about a ground shift, right? The ground has shifted. That is significant. So we can definitely get another one. And that could be why we're seeing, excuse me, just bear with me. Okay, so according to the media reports, buildings swayed in the capital of Tokyo. And warned that more earthquakes can hit the region over the coming days. They already had 90 aftershocks, and these were significant aftershocks. That's why they're evacuating 100,000 people. And Japan's Nuclear Regulation Authority, which was created post-Fukushima, and are beholden to the nuclear industry themselves. The closest to the quake epicenter, the Shika plant in Ishiwaka, and I butchered the name, I apologize for that, but I don't speak Japanese very well, or at all, had already halted its 2 reactors before the tremors, aka, and see, they avoid using the word earthquake, because that's a significant earthquake. That's not a tremor, that's an earthquake, see? That should be treated with respect. And so they're trying to downplay it because they want a renaissance in the nuclear industry. And that's why we got a poll tonight asking that question. Is these earthquakes a threat to Japan's nuclear power plants and proxy to the rest of the world? Because radioactive fallout doesn't respect borders, right? The closest to the quakes, and they don't even use earthquake, the quakes epicenter, they already halted its 2 reactors. Again, it's the industry, or the nuclear industry is a very dubious industry. It thinks nothing over a line. So there was a little wave came up some of the rivers, waterways and stuff like that, and I didn't do it very good. So that's traveling opposite way the river is traveling. And there was shaking from the top of the buildings. And what you're seeing when you see the different lateral movements, that's the camera swaying so much, right? So yeah, there's infinitely swaying. Okay, so what I thought was amazing, this is to me amazing today, was first off, that's Taiwan, that's CNN, and that's with a check mark on it, that's validated by YouTube, right? But that's actually Taiwan, that's not Japan. That's Japan today, but the one at the top is 2011. And they got 20,000 live viewers. But I've never seen the mainstream media come out with salacious headlines with fake pictures on tsunamis and earthquakes before. Because usually you don't need to exasperate it, right? Or, because most people understand earthquake is an earthquake and it comes with damage, right? So it was really interesting that I started seeing this in all the major medias. And then I started saying to myself, well, that was the subways were getting flooded. And so you remember, I'm finding my way there. This is this morning when I'm first looking at the story. I go over to YouTube because I can't really find many pictures. And I say, didn't I see that picture in Taiwan? Now, I could be wrong. That could be from Japan. But I couldn't find any supporting documentation. And then when I'm looking at the fake tsunamis, and you'll see other reasons. And so these pictures here when I looked at the videos of it, I didn't see that much smoke. It looks like they added smoke into it. And then we know the picture to your left is 2011, March 11, 2011. As for the picture to the right, I don't know for sure. That could be today. But why conflate these two together? Japan quake triggers a major tsunami. And this is a major media. That was another depiction. Al Jazeera, meanwhile, was showing you the purple was the most, and you can see the X, that's where the tsunami struck. The purple was the most likely to be a significant tsunami. And then the red was next likely to be, high tsunamis. And the yellows were still considered significant tsunamis. And you can't have tsunamis there without having South Korea, North Korea, and Russia too, right? Which are right there. It's not just going to be isolated. It doesn't just travel one way, basically. Japan is on high alert. So this is CNN again, but that's a 2011 picture. Now, I've never seen the media do that before. And I've never seen media come out with these old pictures. Again, here was another one where they're showing pictures from 2011. Tsunami strikes after 7.6 magnitude earthquake. 7.6 earthquake. Now, the picture to the left might be from today, but they told so many lies today. I don't know if I should trust. And typical of the earthquakes, you usually got to wait a week or 2 weeks to find out what really happened, right? Because they come out and tell you lies. That's all they're going to tell you. And you have to extrapolate the truth from the propaganda that they're posting, the consensus. And so the tsunami, is that picture up there is a fake one. But these are all certified medias. Again, they painted more smoke in the houses that was in the actual videos. And this mail online says echoes and chilling. But there was no reason to post that pictures. Why wouldn't you post pictures of the earthquake? I've never seen them do that before. And, of course, this picture turns out, as far as I know, is real. That actually happened today. And that's from today. And triggering tsunami warning. This was social media footage. And it doesn't really do it justice, but you see the lateral, or you see the movements. And we get a stationary. There was enough stuff showing up online that they didn't need to put fake pictures out, is what I'm trying to show you. There was more than enough of real stuff. Why put out the fake pictures? Why did they do that? And because we've never seen them do that before. And so that house collapsed. There's quite a few houses collapsed. There's approximately 8 people confirmed dead as of the last hour. There's some significant damage. There's a huge rescue effort on the go. There's major fires. There's, in fact, like small skyscrapers have collapsed. I don't know if there's more than one or not, but again, here's another media telling you that this is today, but this is actually 2011 footage. And they were certified by YouTube too. And these are clearly videos from 2011. And that's mainstream media putting that out and then also putting in stuff from today. And no way for you to tell the difference. And I think it's disrespectful because there's, family members from Japan or worldwide, and they go to the CNN and Business Insiders and the rest of them looking for facts. And the first thing they see is these devastating tsunamis. And I think that's incredibly criminal that they would do something like that. So again, I don't know if that's from today. I'm assuming that's from today, but it's so hard to believe the media with all the lies. It's very difficult to believe that that's today, when that could very well be today, but it's almost impossible to trust the media with all the lies we've seen them say today. Excuse me. And they're showing 2011 tsunami. Again, this is 2000. This is NTV with the check mark from YouTube, certifying them, talking about a tsunami, but they're showing you a tsunami from 2011 and damage from 2011. So why is all the media doing that? I can see some scumbags in the media doing it, but why am I seeing so many medias doing it? What? Because we don't know what really happened. Look, they're showing you that picture. Major wave hits Japan coast. ET now, certified by YouTube. That's not happening today. That didn't happen today. That's 2011. So that is quite interesting that we're seeing medias worldwide coming out pretending that, there are people that died there. They have all kinds, we know 8 people died. We know people are buried under rubble. So why are they coming out with all these fake pictures for? They have so much real stuff going on, and they got access to it. So why are they putting out all this fake stuff? Because we cover all of these earthquakes, the big earthquakes in Japan since Fukushima, and we've never seen an incident like this before. Tsunami strikes parts of Japan. This is the mirror now, which is United Kingdom. Why? There's a coordinated effort to do that today, folks. And there's no precedent that I can point to where they've done that for earthquakes and tsunamis before. We've never seen them do this post. That is probably a day, and Both of those pictures are probably from today. But how can you, that's the times now, but how can you really trust them after what we're seeing so far today? Here they're showing multiple buildings collapse. That's not true. There is one building collapse like that, and that could be it, but manipulated. But the ocean not coming in, the city's not being swallowed by a tsunami, the buildings are not crumbling, it's not sliding into the ocean. The moment the 7.6 quake hit Japan, they're showing you these pictures. And look at the red circle, right? Where it's like the coastline broke off and drifted out into the ocean. In fact, the lower picture over there are skyscrapers that look like they're about to be overrun by waves. And some of the depictions are showing this. This is CNN, for goodness sakes, showing a massive tsunami taller than the skyscrapers in Tokyo, which is on the wrong side. That's Tokyo. Why are these so? Why is all the media showing these types of pictures today? And why was this one redacted? Why did YouTube redact that picture? Why is the media out there? Look at India Today, which is a major media. Why are they showing a tsunami coming in, wiping out the cities? There's a whole bunch of media doing that today. Why are they doing that? Like, there's tons of pictures out there that happen today, but they've conflated and mixed them together to the point where you can't really trust anything you're seeing today. It's going to take a week or 2 weeks to figure out what actually happened here. Because, that's not today. And they got 41,000 views. Do you think I'm going to get 41,000 views because I told you the truth tonight? Do you think I'm going to get 300 views? I can guarantee you I won't get 300 views. And in fact, when the video is over, I'll probably have 11 views. That's what they've been doing for me for quite a while. And so here we got another one showing you tsunamis coming in, wiping out cities. Why are we seeing so many depictions like that today? What are they up to? Because that's coordinated. Here's another one. Now they're showing the earthquake in the center of Japan between Tokyo and where it happened in the middle of the country. Just do whatever you like. That's what the media is doing to us now. 59,000 views showing the tsunami coming, wiping out the coastline, cars caught up in the tsunami, all kinds of carnage. And that's just going to draw people in like 2011 did, right? Do we all remember 2011? This guy's crying. You got buildings exploding. See that up there? You got all kinds of buildings collapsing, all kinds of weird angles. You got skyscrapers collapsing. You got a tsunami coming in. You got people getting out of their vehicles like they're going to run away. Why is the media doing that today? This is coordinated through all the medias. And look at all the skyscrapers in this one tipping over. Buildings turned to rubble in seconds. Japan's earthquake. That's not Japan. That might be Taiwan, and I don't even think it's that. And that's not today. On top of that, why are they showing us that? And why are they getting such high views on all of these videos? And some of them I haven't got here had over 1 million views in 2 hours. Look at this one. And look at this depiction here. You got 86 people watching the live stream. If you got a tsunami going to swallow up major cities. So there was a coordinated effort with all the pundits, all the... I don't know what's going on. But I can tell you one thing. They're on the same equivalence as the Hito earthquake. They've had almost 100 aftershocks, and it's not even a full day gone by yet. It was 130 after the Hito earthquake in 2018, right? Where it dropped, and I showed you that at the beginning, where it dropped the payloads of all the mountains. Japan earthquake news live. Highest level tsunami warning dropped, but residents in coastal areas are told not to return home. And so is there another major earthquake about to strike there, or worse, strike by Fukushima? Or has there been damage at the nuclear plant there? And so this picture did show up a lot today. I'm assuming that picture is real. But it's so difficult to trust Japan after all the propaganda we've seen today. Highest level tsunami warnings dropped, but a powerful earthquake slams Japan from riders. Residents flee some coastal areas. And so again, all these salacious headlines, but there's so many fake pictures from the media. We've never seen them do that before, because they usually fact check people. Oh, that was picture. We checked it. That was from 2011. We've seen all kinds of stories like that over the last decade, 12 years, right? And yet here they are all out there doing it today. And whenever you see media doing that, that's a really bad thing. Japan hit by, because they want a nuclear renaissance, quakes of above 4 on the Richter scale, 21 quakes at that time. There's now we know is over 100. But you can see here the tectonic plates have dropped the country. Right, that's a significant earthquake. And if the nuclear power plant, the Shika nuclear power plant wasn't shut down, that could have been a meltdown. And can we really trust him that it was shut down? Are they putting out all the salacious pictures because there was an issue there? But there are also a lot of fuel pools at that site, nuclear waste stored at that site, right? And these they need 4,500 tons of water a minute. Does the power outage go all the way there? So the highways, we can see cracks and damages to the highways. And so there's lots of damage. There was no reason to put all these fake pictures there, is what I'm saying to you. You know, we know 8 people died. We know there's lots more crushed inside the buildings you might not find for weeks. We know that number is going to rise. We know there's a lot of people injured. We know there's significant damage that would have quelled the thirst of any media. And so why did he put out all the fake pictures today? That's a very, very, very troubling, I'll show you some more stuff. So there's buildings collapsing. You can see these are very grainy videos. My apologies. And so there's some serious damage. You can see when you see the windows popping out, that's the whole house has shifted. And you can see the roof on the ground there. You can see buildings off-centered, buildings that are tilted. So there's quite a lot of, there was tons of pictures available to the media that would be plenty salacious. They didn't need to fake all the pictures that they faked today. Residents flee coastal areas. So the Eurasian plate and the North American plate and the tectonic plate boundary is not very far away, is it? And now they're showing the epicenter is on land again in that picture. Right, so it's very conflicting. Some are saying it's 53 kilometers, which I'm only assuming it because they're very vague about it. Normally they give you a latitude and longitude, right? And so they didn't give you very rare did they give you the distances. So it's generally just they give you one distance. Depth is typically the distance instead of distance, rather. And so it looks like we had a significant event. There's a cover-up going on. Do you know we're paying attention worldwide? And we're looking at the cover story. That's why they got all these salacious pictures out there today. The closest nuclear power station to the quake's epicenter, again, they're why did they come out and say that? All the media is coming out and repeating that. Had already halted its 2 reactors. That don't mean it's still safe, though. The fuel pools are never safe. They're not safe for another couple of 100,000 years. For regular inspection, saw no impact from the quake, the agency said. But yet the buildings were swaying in Tokyo, hundreds of kilometers away, for up to 2 minutes at a time. So now it's up to around 100 aftershocks. Thousands in shelter. The number now is close to 100,000, over 90,000 for sure. Dozens of buildings collapsed in several towns. So not just one town, but multiple towns, trapping an unknown number of people beneath the rubble. So why are they coming out with all the fake pictures today that I showed you earlier? At this time, there were 60 tremors, which is earthquakes. So to avoid using the word earthquake, they use the word quake, they use the word tremor, but pretty hard for them to get them to use the word earthquake. 7.6 magnitude quake, which is very disrespectful when you think about the damage that it's done, that 100,000 people can't go home, right? That it done damage to highways and buildings and people are dead. Very disrespectful not to give it credibility it deserves. He felt tremors. These are not tremors. You can't even stand up in some of these places. A 7.6, you're not standing on your 2 feet when that happens for the average person, right? Despite being in Yokohama on the other side of Japan's main island, which means Fukushima is very vulnerable, right? And all other nuclear power plants, fuel pools, and infrastructure would be just as vulnerable. Told the BBC, again, they're talking to tourists instead of to the people in the country. What are you doing? Because the tourists don't know jack shit. Excuse the French Canadian. Told the BBC he felt the earthquake from his home north of Tokyo, 514 kilometers away from the epicenter. So Fukushima is not even half that distance. So it'd be prudent to acknowledge that they had an event there too. Several hundred, which might be the reason why we're seeing all the faking of pictures from the mainstream media, vicious faking of pictures today, which is extraordinary. Several hundred meters of the main expressway between the cities of Tokuyama and Kanazawa have been ripped apart by this landslides. Now, I showed you landslides from Hito at the beginning of the video from 2018. I couldn't find any pictures of the landslides. And so here's another useless map that they put out. They changed. Now the epicenter again in these pictures is on land, right? They're showing you, again, we're seeing that more often than not that the tsunami is on land. But we haven't heard them come out and actually acknowledge that. If that's on land, then they got problems at that nuclear power plant in Shikita. Don't they? Guarantee you. Devastating footage shows the aftermath of the 7.6 quake. Well, the picture to your left I know is real. The picture to your right, it looks like a landslide too, is most likely real. But again, as I showed you earlier tonight, it's very difficult to trust the media today in particular. So these pictures is somebody driving along. I'm taking screen captures. And all the driveways are ripped up. Look at this. So this is a significant drop. These driveways are not like that. They're like this. So this has dropped down. This is a tectonic plate event. 100%, which is a significant one. That can break apart the water pipes of the reactors. And the reactors need 4,500 tons, a million gallons per minute. 1,440 minutes a day. So this is one of the reasons Fukushima melted down, is because there was such a big drop in the country that you broke the plates, or you broke the pipes, the 6 foot or the 12-foot pipes or whatever they are. So as he's driving along, I'm starting to realize, wow, look at this stuff. There's significant damage to the road structures. So that was a tectonic plate damage is what we're seeing. And again, that's probably true. We know that picture is true. The one with the 7.6 magnitude earthquake left Japan shaking. And I think that's the appropriate word, left Japan shaking. Because that's what happened. It left Japan shaking, didn't it? Japan was actually shaking. And there's another nuclear power plant here. And the earthquake was out off that point up there. And over there, Shika is another nuclear power plant. Both of them are quite close compared to Tokyo and to that other place 500 kilometers away, right? That was shaken violently. So they could be faking those pictures today to cover up an event that Japan had today. But we won't know. We might never find the truth. But because I'm paying attention, if there's anything shows up, we'll catch it. But generally, with any of these earthquakes, it takes 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days before you start seeing the numbers come out. And it usually takes a month and a half, 2 months, before the insurance company comes out and says, well, we paid out $5 billion and there was 5,000 schools damaged and blah, blah, blah. Because that's what we seen last year, right? Off the Fukushima prefecture, which is only about 40 kilometers off the coastline. And a new dawn for Japan's nuclear power. But there's not, is it? And that particular plant is right close to the epicenter. So they were announcing this one today, but at the same time they had an earthquake very close to it. And then the major medias worldwide come out and fake the pictures, over-exaggerated it, I think more or less to drive people away, to make them upset with it, right? 4 people killed, but it's actually now, and hundreds of tremors, hundreds of earthquakes followed it. We know now it's at least 8. We know it's going to be a lot more. We know there's people still trapped in buildings that have collapsed. There's a small 8-9-story building tipped over. There's numerous buildings. So I don't like. There's so much real carnage going on. Why did the media and major media at that come out and fake the pictures when there's so many real stories that are heartbreaking? They could have told, right? Many buildings have collapsed. And 97,000 people in 9 prefectures on the western coast of Japan's main island, Honshu, were told to evacuate on Monday night. And so it's obviously going to be over 100,000 right now. Cars shake on the road in northern Japan during the earthquake. They're talking about far, far away. And so when you're talking about buildings, serious things far, far away, and you're announcing a plant opening, another plant reopening that's really close to the epicenter, the best thing you could have today would be a distraction, because they were also going to be working on Reactor 1 allegedly too. So apparently there's all kinds of work going there. So I'm assuming there's a radioactive plume coming to North America in the next 3, 4, 5 days from just Fukushima, because Fukushima is actually destroyed, right? And so I'm going to treat that appropriately. And because Fukushima was a serious event, and those earthquakes are enough to shake what's left of these buildings, significant to start a chain reaction. And that the plumes, so let me show you that before we go here. So this is 2011, the detonation, but the plumes covered the planet in about 26 days. But most of these models that you're looking at are based on venting, not based on the actual meltdown. And so these models are based on less than what will come out of the buildings during an earthquake if there is a criticality takes place. So you need to be concerned about it. And so that I don't understand why they're faking so many pictures today, only that we know they're faking all kinds of pictures today. Right? We know they're faking all kinds of pictures. We're not going to be naive. We got tons of evidence all day long. We gathered up this evidence. And we're seeing it from every direction. Why do you got so many, when there's so much real harm, real tragedy, real heartbreaks today, why are they putting out so much fake stuff? It was not fake, it's 2011, but it's fake. And, today there's enough going on to warrant it covering the actual story rather than the fake story. So they're trying to distract us because you can see there's real damage, a significant damage, right? Okay, well, I guess that'll be about it for us tonight. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up. And remember, they covered up the Honshu, the Hito earthquake in 2018 and claimed that it was just a 6.6 when it was actually a 9.5. And they buried it. And do you think for 1 second that they won't do it again? Right? They hid all of that away. That's 2018 pictures. I mean, they had 20,000 people on their live streams. I got 58. 58 on my live stream, which is a bit of a miracle for me. Was Japan's massive earthquake today more proof that Japan's nuclear power plants are a threat to the country? I think they are. And so I just wanted to come out tonight, despite not feeling good and wanting taking the day off and recover. I had to come out and tell that story tonight because it's extraordinary, right? So I'll be paying attention tonight and the moral to this story. And I'm probably going to end up having to do an update tomorrow night if there's something significant. I'll certainly be including any updates in the beginning of the show tomorrow night. And I'm burnt out. I'm worn out. But anyway, we're into the new year, 2024. I'm going to end the poll on that note. I'm going to end the poll. And we'll see everybody tomorrow night. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up if you made it this far. We With 47 votes, 100% of people are saying the same thing. We had, my brain is going dead here now. Tabitha Goody donated 60, and Stephen Young donated 60 today, which is a big deal. We desperately need it to get back on track, so we appreciate that dramatically. Thank you, and hugs for everybody. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. We'll give you any updates we can. Have a great night and a great day tomorrow. Take care, everybody.